So, this is a speaker meeting, and our speaker will share his experience, strength, and hope for approximately 45 minutes. So we ask out of respect for our speaker to please remain seated until he is finished. It is my pleasure to introduce our AV guy for the Reed.
Hello everybody, my name is Reed and I am an alcoholic. So I'm going to share my experience, strength, and hope. And I first want to thank the gentleman that stood up and said that they were an alcoholic in the beginning of this meeting when we asked. That's one of the hardest things to do, at least it was for me. And I'm a chronic relapser. This is my fourth time in Alcoholics Anonymous. 3 times that I've been in it before were all because of legal reasons. I got in trouble with DUIs. I've had 3 of them. And one of them was taken away because we got beat up by the police, and it was just before Rodney King, so they dropped it. And it was in LA. And then I've had 2 more DUIs. The last one I had 7 years of sobriety, and I went back out. But let me start. I was born in Auburn, one of 4 children, all adopted. Had pretty much a normal kind of Beaver Cleaver life. Didn't really have any problems. I was an athlete, good in school, and things changed around 7th grade. It was a situation with friends, and I look back on it now, I didn't react well. And it changed my life dramatically for how I reacted to situations. It just became where I was right and you were wrong. And that's the way I just ran my life the rest of my life. I didn't drink much when I was in high school. I didn't really fit in. I was kind of an odd duck. I didn't hit puberty till late, but still played sports, so that's where I had friends. But my using really started, at least when I knew I was an alcoholic. When I was 21, I was able to buy booze, and I just kind of drank a lot. And it just continued. I didn't really think I was an alcoholic until I got that first DUI. We were on the Grapevine driving to a cruise, drinking like every hour we'd stop and drink more. And when we got caught, I'll cut the story short. But anyway, we got in trouble. But the weird part about it was that once we got out of Bakersfield jail, we were there for 4 hours. They had left our car on the Grapevine. We paid a cabbie to drive us to the car, and then we continued to go on that cruise. Now, mind you, in the back of this car, we had a lot of money hidden and cases of vodka. So you can understand what kind of drinker I am at that point. We went on the cruise, and we just drank for 4 days straight. And we drank so much that we had to stay in LA for 3 days to sober up enough to drive back home. So this is the kind of drinker that I was. Got out of that legal stuff and then proceeded on with my life. I didn't drink every day, but when I drank a lot. And I just really didn't care much about rules. I didn't care what the police or what you guys thought. I just kind of ran my life kind of crazy. I worked in a field. I was a broadcast engineer, so I traveled. I did a lot of crazy things, sporting events, NASCAR, NHRA, World Title Fighting, WWF, which was back then. But my drinking was where everywhere I went, it was permitted. It was kind of what we did. But the last DUI I got was a felony. And I had a child in the car. And I was taking a friend to a hotel, but it was in a 2-seat car, and the child was strapped in, but in someone's lap. And it was on Super Bowl Sunday. I shouldn't have been driving, but I did. But that's the one thing that got me in big trouble. But by the time I got prosecuted, I had 3 years of sobriety. So the people in Alcoholics Anonymous helped me through that legally, and they were dropped to misdemeanors. And I really threw myself into Alcoholics Anonymous. It was down in Phoenix, and I did a lot of H&I work at hospitals. I spoke at a lot of meetings, but I kind of jumped on what I call the bandwagon. I wanted to be the who's who of Alcoholics Anonymous. I wanted to impress you all that I was, well, better than you, because my biggest problem is I'm afraid of everything. I'm afraid of looking bad. I'm afraid of what you guys think of me. I'm afraid of what the world thinks of me. But I just live in fear all the time, or at least that's the way it feels. So anything and everything I've done in my life, I've always worried about what you thought or what everybody thought. And it was just chaos to play that dance. And it's in the book that we just keep trying to do this, but I could never understand why in a room full of people I'm lonely. I don't have the confidence to do anything. I have to create this image in order to be somebody, in order to move forward, in order to just function in life. But it's really just a lie. I mean, it's something I've made up. I mean, the individual that I am, I never knew because I was always pretending to be somebody else. But in my life, it helped me survive. And in that 7 years of sobriety, I thought I had it made. I thought I understood this program. I thought I understood how to stay sober. I thought I understood what a higher power was. But I didn't. Near the end of it, and what really sent me off was I wasn't really in the program at that time. I wasn't speaking anymore, wasn't doing H&I work. I had a sponsor that I really didn't like, but I kept one and I didn't talk to him. But what got it was that my brother, my younger brother, was having some problems. He was in the Gulf War and had some injuries from it, and was on a lot of pain medication and drinking. And why I'm sitting here sober in Arizona, he's in California falling apart, and I can't do anything about it. And I want you guys to understand who this individual is to me, because he was the closest and the most person I ever loved. I mean, he was the dearest to me. He came to my house, flew in. We were supposed to fly directly, but he landed in Vegas for 5 hours, got lost. Don't know really what he did, but he did make it to my house. He was completely loaded on everything. But he was going to treatment here in Prescott. And my job was just to make him comfortable for that. And I did. He drank, played well with my kids, had a great night. I mean, it was really a weird night because everything worked out amazingly. Everybody had a great time, and I set him on the couch. He passed out. Before I went to bed, I laid him down. And I woke up around 1:30 in the morning, and something was wrong. I knew it. And I went in there, and he was dead. I pulled him off the couch. He was still warm, but you could tell that he was dead. And I tried CPR. My girlfriend called 911. They came, they did everything, but he didn't live. He aspirated. So in that moment, I lose the person I love the most. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, I got to wake up my parents to tell them that their son's dead. And I finally got a hold of them and let them know. And from that point on, it just went, I don't know, I went into a shell. We took a long time for the funeral because I had to get him back to California. We had to do the Marine Corps thing. His wife was, I don't know, she was out of control, and so was my mom. But eventually the funeral happened. We got that over with. And about 4 months later, I went out drinking again. And I just had lost faith in my higher power. I couldn't believe that my higher power would kill or that my brother would die. It was rough, but I want you guys to understand what kind of alcoholic I am. I've always been able to, what I think, is hide it. With jobs, I always had an out. So when this one was falling apart, I always had another one to go to. I've always been pretty good at working, but hiding the alcoholism is hard. It's a lot of work. Using drugs and alcohol is amazingly a lot of work in your life. But I did another 10 years of drinking. It was controlled. I drank 2 days a week, sobered up for 1, and then went to work for 4 days as an engineer. Was quite successful, 3 promotions. And then one day, which was on October 26th, I was sitting in my couch with half a fifth of whiskey, doing what I normally do, which is drinking, and all of a sudden I just couldn't do it anymore. I don't know what it was. I couldn't think. I didn't have an out. I didn't have another direction. I was just lost. And the only thing I knew at that point was to call Alcoholics Anonymous. I knew it worked. I just hadn't worked it. And so I came up here for treatment, did 30 days at Reflections. I immediately got a sponsor. And this time, I did it his way. I didn't do it my way. I didn't put rules to it. And his name was Charles. And he taught me one thing, at least because I only was with him for 3 months because he moved to Parker. But he taught me one thing, that my journey, my spiritual journey, is mine. It's my individual journey. It's not anybody else's. The path that I'm taking is no one else's, which means I don't emulate somebody else. This is something I have to learn. And so he moved, and I immediately got a sponsor, which I have now, which is Isaac. I have a grand sponsor, John. When I wasn't working at the time, after I got out of here, I was living in Phoenix, moved my whole family up here, and proceeded to be semi-retired for 1 year and 3 months. But during that time, I jumped into this program, but a different way. I needed to learn the hardest thing in the world, which is to learn who I am, because I didn't know who I was, and I didn't understand how to feel. I didn't understand how to not react, because I always reacted with violence. It was either hurt you or get away from you. And I'd lived that way a long time. Even in work, if you didn't agree or work with me, I would work to get rid of you because you were in my way. I tried to control everything in my life, and it didn't work. So you newcomers, I don't know your stories. I don't know what you've been through. But I can tell you this disease is horrendous. It just gets worse. If you want to prove it, go back out, because it just gets worse. But what you can do is find somebody that you like or that you hear something from and hang on. But the best way to do it is just give up your will and follow. I mean, that's what I had to learn. I'm not telling you how to do this, I'm just sharing my experience. This time I went into this program not wanting to do what I'm doing right now. I had done it so much in the Valley that it creates an ego, and I've been running on ego my whole life. That was what protected me. And so I really don't like to be up here. But I want to share what this is like. It is hard, amazingly hard, just to admit you're an alcoholic. It really is, or a drug addict. I consider them both the same. The second part is to give up your will. And the problem with that is that I've lived on it my whole life. It's protected me. It's driven me. It took me where I needed to go. The problem is it didn't work. I had tried for years to die from this disease. Truly. I drank, in the 2 days that I drank over a fifth of whiskey each day. And then the third day, it got to the point where it was so violent to sober up. You'd go through the shakes, hours and hours of throwing up, just to get back to work and pretend that you're not an alcoholic. But I'm the kind of drinker that when I get a drink in me, I will drink what's ever in front of me. And then when that goes out, I go get more. I don't know why, but it's just that way. But with the sponsor that I have, and including Charles, at least he gave me a direction, a path that I could do this myself, my way. But I had to listen to someone else. In other words, I got to choose what my higher power means to me. And believe me, after what happened with my brother, it was very difficult to figure out higher power. So I will give you an example of what it's like to be me. Today was a horrendous day. Wasn't too bad. Anyway, I'm a car salesman. Not what I wanted to be after being an engineer, but with a friend through the program, he knew that I needed some work and got me a job. It turns out that I'm not bad at that. What I found, just to give you an example through this program, is that nobody likes a car salesman. I truly don't. And it's because they think that everybody's stealing from them. So, and I got that because I've dealt with them myself in life. But I had to emulate this program into my life. And I have to do it truly through all of my life. And so I understand that the way I think, the way I react, the way I live is wrong. So it's like being a kid again, but with the help, and believe me, I've used a lot of people in this program, but with help, I've been able to maintain just over 2 years of sobriety. When I first got here, there was 2 gentlemen, and they're very important to me, but they don't know it. But when I went to meetings in the beginning, they just smiled, and they were smiling at me each time I showed up, and I couldn't figure out why. And my old behavior was, what's wrong with the way I look? What's wrong with me? Why are you looking at me? And why are you, I figured they were attacking me with that smile, because that's how I lived. And what they were smiling about was that I kept showing up. I didn't know it at the time. But I put myself into this program a little differently than I did before. It used to be that I had to be up here. It used to be that I had to show you how great I was. It used to be that I had to tell you how to do this program. I don't need to do that today. I like Alcoholics Anonymous. It's saved my life. I do a lot for Alcoholics Anonymous, quietly. I don't share much in meetings because I don't have anything to say. I need to listen. Because my way is crazy. I mean, to give you an example, this is how I do a lot of this, is today I go to work. I try to sell cars to people. In the beginning, which was about a month and a half into selling cars, because I knew nothing about this, so I had to learn it all. I thought that I could be the tricky-dicky salesman that could take all your money and be happy. And after about a week and a half of that, it just destroyed me. I couldn't be that person. So what I do is I honestly sell you a car. I take people that's in there and help them. And if they want it or not, that's fine. If they can't get into it, there's a lot of guys. In fact, I work with 4 guys that are in the program at this place. They help them get it if they can. But I don't sell you anything. I show you what you can afford and what you can't afford. I sponsor gentlemen. And the way I sponsor them is as I show them a little bit about what it's like to have been me, what it's going to be like if you choose to keep going, and that I can show you a path by going through the steps, but I let the experience be yours. I let you learn. I just direct you and show you. And it's amazing what happens is they really change. They don't see it, but I do. And then every once in a while you let them know. And you guys in the room let them know how much they've changed, because eventually they start to smile. And I haven't smiled in a long time, but I have in the last 2 years. Shit, I got half an hour to do this. So, I don't know. I learned that feeling is hard. And I learned that I have to slow down, feel the feeling, process the feeling, keep my head out of it, and then once I understand what's going on, I can move forward by using my thoughts. To give you a crazy example of how my world is that when I go home from work, I stop at Safeway. And I can tell what kind of man I am and what kind of place my head is in. By the time I get to the line, there's usually about 4 or 5 people in front of me. And I find that immediately I start judging people. I do. And I mean, I judge the cashier. I judge the people in line. I don't like the way they dress. They're going too slow. You're fumbling around. You know, I start to classify you of what type of person you are. And then I have to realize that God read you're not God. And you're just not. I mean, why do I do that? I've done that my whole life. Why is it that I tear people apart? And it's because I don't want to look bad. I have to be better. But why? I don't understand it. But that's the way I think. And after 54 years of doing that, it's hard to change. But I try to be helpful today to people. I try to share what it's like inside of me, because it's difficult. At 2 years of sobriety, I mean, the first 6 months was a phase. I was just in it. I just survived. And my sponsor knows, from 6 months to 9 months, I found out, which was a problem, is that I sat in a corner up against a wall and I didn't fit. I didn't have any friends. I didn't know how to get friends. And it drove me nuts. And it eventually got to the point where I gave it up. I just said, you know what, God, I can't do this anymore. And by doing that, I don't know, a miracle kind of happened. I started to fit in. I was able to talk to people. I wasn't afraid, because I found out that I own a chair in this room. I belong here. And my purpose is to help someone else. From 9 months to 12 months, I had to figure out intellectually what a higher power was. So I read books, lots of books, lots of A books. I needed a definition because that's the way my brain works. I needed to find out what he was like. And that drove me into insanity again, and again I just gave up. And so today my higher power is okay, whatever he is. I don't have to label him. But he does work in my life, amazingly. He works in my life. And then after 1 year, it was weird. People in this program started to want me to do things, run meetings, be a part of. After I went through the steps, my sponsor said, "You're done, now go sponsor." And I've sponsored quite a few people. A lot of them have, you give them their number, they call once if I'm lucky. A lot of times they just take my number because they can say that I'm their sponsor. But I'm willing to help people. I'm willing to do what it takes to help you. Because I know what it's like to be a relapser. I know what it's like to do this by the book. I know what it's like to be this guy up here. I know what it's like to also be hopeless, which is I don't have any more answers. That's it. That's all I got. I want to thank everybody for being here, truly. And if you guys that are just starting this out, hang on. It gets way better. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work because you just have to figure out who you are. But God did not make a bad creature. You are a wonderful individual. You have truly good hearts. You can, in turn, help somebody else. It's amazing when I stop thinking about myself and help. But it is hard to change that thinking about myself. It's a lot of work. But thank you.
Thanks, Reed. Appreciate that. So let's thank Reed one more time.